This is Module 8 for EDL 856. This is my communication flowchart for Charlevoix Public Schools. I use Lucid Charts, which was super easy. So looking at internal and external communication, the internal communication I put as the people who are directly involved in the schools, and whether it's people who worked at the schools, people who made decisions for the schools or attended the schools. That's the superintendent, the Board of Education, the administrators, teachers and faculty, and students. External communication is parents, community members, business owners, local and state government officials. I included these people because they are involved with the schools, but they're not directly making the decisions or working for the schools. So I connect the different people or parties using the arrows with different colors. The green arrows are people who communicate frequently, almost daily. The blue arrows are regular communicators, whether it's weekly or a couple times a week. And the orange is occasional communication when necessary, whether it's on a situational basis or whatnot. So I started with the superintendent, and I would say the superintendent has frequent communication with administrators, the Board of Education, and the local and state government officials. He communicates daily with them. He has occasional communication with teachers and faculties and students. Very rarely is our superintendent does he make a presence within our school, which is why in the areas for improvement in the corner I put that the superintendent communicating with teachers and students is something we could work on. I think it's important to get him in the schools, and I also know that he follows the chain of command when he wants us to follow the chain of command when we're communicating as teachers and faculty. He wants us to go to our administrators first and talk to them before we address a problem or have a concern or an issue with the superintendent. The Board of Education really only communicates directly with, the superintendent does communicate regularly with community members and business owners. And that's usually a one-way form of communication. He's pushing information out to them, especially when it comes to like a bond issue, if there's an election coming up or things like that. So our Board of Education is pretty much only in communication with the superintendent. They're really not communicating with any other people except for during the meetings when they're hearing, some parents and concerns. But for the most part, they are only communicating with the superintendent, which is another area of improvement. I think that we need a two-way form of communication between the Board of Education and the teachers and students. I think that they should be in the schools communicating there and, finding concerns and celebrating with our students and getting involved in the education of our students. I think that would help them with their decision making and whatever else that they feel is important in the schools. I think okay, I just lost it for a second. I think it's important to build that relationship between the Board of Education and the students and the teachers. The administrators in our district are the main communicators. They pretty much are communicating with everybody on this flow chart. They communicate with teachers and students regularly, the superintendent regularly on a daily basis. They also get the community members involved with special events and sponsorships and volunteer opportunities when they need to. They communicate with parents when there's an issue. That's almost all of their forms of communication are two-way forms of communication. I would assume that most of it happens digitally as well. Teachers and faculty, they communicate with students and administrators. They communicate with parents. One area of improvement that I think teachers and faculty could benefit from is making those connections and engagements with the community members and business owners, and getting our students out in the community to align our curriculum and give them another way of learning in the community and utilizing the resources that we have right in our community. Teachers and faculty don't really communicate much with the local and state government officials. Our students communicate with their parents, with teachers, administrators. They don't really communicate with the superintendent, the Board of Education, or community members. Um, the parents, I think all parent communication is pretty much two-way forms of communication, whether it's with the administrators or teachers and faculty. I'm assuming a lot of that happens digitally as well. Right now, especially with COVID happening, almost all of our communication is happening digitally through email or text. Our community members and business owners, most of that communication is one-way communication as well. They just like to see what's going on and what's happening in our school. Local and state government officials, that's a one-way communication between superintendent and them. We're not really communicating back and forth with them. They're pretty much just telling us what's going on and what, accommodations and what we need to start doing or what we need to change. So I as I do think that our district is pretty strong in parent communication. Our superintendent and our administrators stress the importance of that two-way communication with parents and building that relationship, especially since we know how much that benefits students in their success. But I did list the areas of improvement that we can work on in my flow chart. I wanted to keep it pretty simple. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment box. Thanks.